Welcome to the Virtual CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping service-based businesses achieve success. Are you a business owner interested in learning how to scale your business? Has your business reached over $1 million in annual revenue? Then this podcast is for you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's podcast. I'm very excited for today's guest. We've had some really good conversations prior to this, and I can just tell this is going to be a fun conversation that'll go a lot of different directions. But before we get to our new guest, I want to introduce Jody again. So Jody, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
Excited to have this conversation. And then, so today's guest is from Caveman Brain, and she told me to call her Dr. Jean, so that's what I'm going to call her. So welcome to the show, Dr. Jean, and just give us a little bit of your background and kind of what you've been working on over the last several years.
Excellent. Well, I'm Dr. Jean because I have a PhD in business psychology, and we have been working on something called Caveman Brain. And what we do, how that's based is I came to a point in my business where I wasn't increasing my sales and I wasn't getting any better, and I was very sad. So I hired 4 coaches to help me. And one of them happened to be a Harvard neuroscientist. And I realized, working with the Harvard neuroscientist, that my caveman brain, well, it's called your amygdala, was preventing me from being more successful. So I started learning about the amygdala. I actually went to PhD school and got a PhD in business psychology so I could understand that. And we've created this fabulous program called Caveman Brain Business Growth System to help people use their caveman brain to make them more successful in new business development. So that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years with a lot of great success. And it's very fun and exciting to help people to be more successful tomorrow than they are today.
Great. Speaking of caveman, I'm going to throw the first question over to Jody. So Jody, you want to ask the first question about the Caveman Brain program, since I know you're somewhat of a caveman yourself. So
No, Caveman Brain program. It sounds great. So can you kind of tell us how you originated with the program itself and kind of give us a little more background on what it's about?
Sure. So I told you how I created Caveman Brain because I can't say amygdala a lot, unfortunately. So that's why it's called Caveman. It was much easier. And no offense to those who want to be cave people or cave women. It's just, it was called Caveman. So that's why we call it Caveman Brain. Mm-hmm. And what happened is that the way it came about, believe it or not, is my daughter got a concussion when she was a freshman in high school. And she asked to go to online private school, which before the pandemic, no one had ever heard of, but now everyone hears about online school. And I ended up having to change my whole business model as an entrepreneur so that I could support her. I truly believe family first. I created my business for my children in mind. I have a mission statement, which is to leave you better than I found you. And my vision is to create 2 happy, healthy, well-adjusted model adult citizens who are financially independent from me. That's the whole, yeah, well, yeah, but that's what I'm working on. And so from that concussion, we changed the business model, and we found out that there were really a lot of people who needed help in new business development and had Caveman Brain around it. So we created everything that I started doing for myself, I started teaching my clients. My clients really liked it. So we decided to develop a program, and then we rolled it out to corporations and regional firms and individuals, because everyone has caveman brain. And once you know how to harness it and focus it, you can be super successful. So
now you said several times caveman brain. What is caveman brain?
So it's your amygdala. It's about the size of the shape of an arm, and it sits in the back of your head. Okay. Think fight, flight, or freeze. So it's your internal protection system. You can't get rid of it. And the whole idea behind it is that it doesn't want you to die. So it's there to protect you from dying, which was great in caveman days because the caveman brain only knows what it hears and what it sees. So if it hears the rustles in the bushes and it sees the bushes moving, what the caveman brain goes, saber-tooth tiger, run, right? Fight or freeze. So run, flight, or freeze. And then your brain is actually flooded with chemicals to do one of those things. But what's the problem is that there's not many saber-tooth tigers today that we need to go hunt down and kill or protect ourselves from. So caveman brain likes to make up stories. And the way I talk about it is this. If you're watching a scary movie and the victim is about to do something not smart, your hands get sweaty, your heart starts to beat a little faster because your brain is reacting to what it's seeing and what it's hearing, but it's not real. And that's what happens is caveman brain makes up all of these stories about things that are not real because it's trying to protect you. And once you learn that those stories are not real and you can harness it to get you to understand how to do things, I'm going to say, more successfully, then your caveman brain goes, oh, okay. So for example, when you buy a new car and you see that car all over the place or the color of the car, that's your caveman brain telling you you did something smart. And once you tell your caveman brain, because it only knows what it sees and what it hears. So if you tell it something new, it goes, oh, okay, let's go get that. So if you say like, I'm really terrible at this, then caveman brain says, well, I guess we're terrible at this, so we should be terrible at this. But if you say, I'm really good at this, the caveman brain goes, okay, I guess we're really good at this. Let's go be good at this. And that's how it works. It's really quite simple. And once you realize that, and a lot of our clients will be like, Dr. Jean, I'm caveman braining. I'm like, okay, now it's a verb, right? I had talked to you about my caveman brain. Now it's a noun. Like we've had adverbs. And oh my gosh, today I had a caveman brain moment. I'm like, okay, now it's a moment. So
it's funny you mentioned the car thing. So it's funny, that phenomenon you talked about. So my daughter just turned 15, and so she's student driving now. And so I have the student driver bumper sticker on the back of my car, which I've never noticed until now how many other cars have that student driver bumper sticker on their car. It's like I feel like every other car has that bumper sticker. I'm like, oh wait, that's because I'm actually paying attention to it. So now I can tell myself that's just my caveman brain thinking. So
that's right. It's just reinforcing that you're successful and it's okay. That's what it's doing. Yeah.
So I guess the goal here is to get your prospective clients or the people that you're trying to sell to use their caveman brain. Is that ultimately the goal in this process?
So actually, you have to deal with your own caveman brain first.
Okay.
So that you understand your caveman brain. And a lot of people in new business development don't want to be pushy, salesy, and aggressive. They don't want to be the used cars person. Like that's the biggest thing. And the thing that people really shy away from the most. Dan Pink wrote a book called Everyone Sells. And it started from the idea that what do people really do all day at work? That was the research project. And what he found out is that people influence other people all day long to do things that they didn't think they originally wanted to do. At least that's what we do at work. Well, that's what new business development is that you're influencing people to do things that it's not that you don't want them to do. That's where the salesy part comes in, but things that are going to be helpful for them and help them get whatever problem they have. So what we talk about is that you have to understand your caveman brain first. I suspect when I say to my clients, they're like, I don't want to be pushy, salesy, and aggressive. And I like, what does that look like? What is that? And once you start to describe it, does that sound pushy, salesy, and aggressive? Like, are you really going to be hardcore? Like, you have to buy my stuff now kind of thing? And the reason why people do, we have to buy our stuff now is because psychology-wise, people buy on scarcity. They don't buy on abundance or benefits. And most of us love to sell on benefits. So most people won't buy unless it's a scarcity. So how do you do that? So it's not like really yucky. So you have to think about how you feel about it. So you're doubtful that you're going to come across salesy, aggressive, and pushy. Then you got to think about what the person across the table wants from you. So that's where you start to manage their caveman brain. Some people are hair on fire. I got to solve this problem today. I'm buying today. Awesome. But most people are like, I have this problem and I don't know when I'm going to solve it. And so then that's up to you to say, well, for example, you have this problem. Do you still want to have this problem in 6 months from now? Or do you want to solve it today? That's not pushy. That's asking a question and helping the person understand where they're coming from. And I always honor a no. If you're not interested, great. Opportunities are like buses. There's another one coming along.
So are there some people that don't mind being pushy? And I know there must be, because the amount of emails I get, even when I say not interested or that has nothing to do with my business, I still get another 10 emails from them. So if that is where their natural brain is, do you steer those people a little bit differently, or how do you work with people that don't mind being pushy and salesy?
So I might say that that's a challenge with their technology, because they might be doing an email campaign and they may not have the technology that cut you off where it says no. So it might be a technology issue. Yeah. There are people who will not take no for an answer, but that's not what happens in our program. We are very clear about who your target audience is. You need to know them like your science project. We tell people you should be able to know who your target audience is literally by just going, oh, look, they're over there. Like you can describe them like a party. You can see them in the airport. You know who that person is. And if you come from a place of, I'm here to help you, I'm not here to sell you. So those people who are sending you a gajillion emails, they're not there to help you. They're just trying to make a number or a quota.
Right.
And that doesn't really work as far as we're concerned. So a lot of times when pushy sales aggressive come across, it's like, you're not the right target audience. So when you're not talking to your right target audience, you're never going to get the sale. And people are going to think you're pushy sales and aggressive because they're like, it's not for me. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's important to know your target audience. And obviously where this case is where they send you 10 emails and all you really want to, like in big capital letters, like stop. That's cool.
Yeah, you're afraid to respond back.
Right, exactly. Like, dude, now if it were me, I'd write something like, do you know who your target audience is? Because it's not me. Go find them.
Yeah, it was funny because I was talking to one of my sales friends the other day, and I told him, yeah, I use an assistant just to respond to those people that I'm not interested in. And he's like, oh, I never respond to them. It's like the second you respond to them, they know you exist, and the emails are going to pick up, and you're just going to get more and more of them. So he's like, don't respond.
Truth.
So.
You delete. Auto delete
those emails.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of statistics around people who are deleting emails, and that's because you're not sending them out to the right people.
Mm-hmm.
So do you recommend not doing email campaigns? Is that what I'm hearing, or is that part of what you'd recommend?
Oh, no, we love email campaigns. Email campaigns are awesome, but you have to do it to the right people. Mm-hmm. And right. So if you're not in the right venue, then it's never going to work. And when the pandemic came up, we spent a lot of time in LinkedIn because mm-hmm. LinkedIn was really a great place to find new business. Today, if you're in LinkedIn, you're in 14 emails probably. Can I connect with you? Can I connect with you? Can I connect with you? You're like, no, I don't want to connect mm-hmm. to you. So no, I love digital marketing. I love social media. I love traditional marketing. I think there's ways of being super successful in all those venues. Mm-hmm. It all starts with who are you talking to and what's the message you're sending to them, which most people don't do a really good job at.
So really identifying that target audience is really the key, versus just blanketly throwing a bunch of stuff out there and hoping something lands.
Yeah, I'm not into the spaghetti method of let's throw it on the table and see what, or throw it at the wall and see what sticks. Right. I'm really of let's be focused and figure out what's going on, because what happens is if you use the spaghetti method, eventually your caveman brain's like, this doesn't work and I'm really bad at it and I don't want to do this and bleh. And then you stop doing your business development, and that's really the lifeblood of your business. So if you're not bringing in new stuff, how are you growing?
Yeah, so, you mentioned the pandemic. A lot of folks, had to sell from home. We've been doing it for 15 years, something like that. So a long time. It's never been an issue with us, but a lot of people find it difficult. Why do you think that is? Why do people find it difficult when somebody like Jamie and I think it's kind of, I don't know, easy?
So I have to ask this to the two of you. Did you feel like when the pandemic started and people started working from home, you're like, hallelujah, you understand my environment. Like, welcome to my house. This is my natural habitat. Did you start feeling like that?
Yeah, it wasn't even, we didn't even miss a beep on it. I mean, we've been remote for about 10 years or so, and it was pretty normal.
Yeah. It's how you do selling every day, all day long.
It's funny. Sorry, just to cut in real quick.
No, go ahead.
We were talking earlier today. I can't remember who we were talking to, but someone was asking, it's another group of CFOs. And they were talking about, how do you have your criteria for who your target client is? And one of our target clients used to be that people were comfortable online, right? Like we wanted to make sure that any client we were going to work with was comfortable showing up on video and comfortable being in this environment. And I'd say 4 years ago, we had to filter out a lot of clients because they come in, they couldn't get their camera working. And then even when they're on camera, you could tell they were on the phone at their beauty parlor and they could hardly hear words you were saying. And like, we just kick those clients out. Like those are the clients we wouldn't want to work on. And I would say now that very rarely happens. So that's almost not even like a sales criteria anymore because everybody is comfortable in this situation.
Right. Well, after 2 years or 2.5 years, when you do this situation. So I've come up with something that I call the big three. This is based on the trends I'm watching. There's people who really want to be in person. They only, and we have clients who are like, the only way I can do this is in person, which is not truth. That's their caveman brain talking, right? Mm-hmm. So I can only do this in person and I'm only successful when I'm in person. Okay. And then we have people who are like, I am never going in person. I'm all virtual all the time. I don't do well in person. Again, caveman brain. Love that, right? So, okay, caveman brain. What are you telling yourself? And then hybrid. So a little bit of in-person and a little bit of online. And I happened to do a speech at a partners retreat. And I did an exercise where I said to them, okay, here, I've just described the big three to you. Now, those who really want to be in person, go to this corner. And those who want to be online, go to that person. Those who want hybrid, go to the back of the room. Okay. So where do you think was the most people who went?
In person.
Yeah, you think that, right? There were 4 people standing in person. Oh, wow. There were two people standing in the online area, and the rest of the room was in the back and hybrid. And I had gone back into the back of the room and I was like, okay, well, do you guys want to like separate out? Because there's a lot of you talking. No, we're all good. We're all good. Okay. So a lot of people really want to be in hybrid mode. They want to be able to do both. And so for those that really wanted to be in person, then great. The world is opening up. There are other people who want to be in person. The only challenge in person is that nowadays people are in 3 different places. Mm-hmm. Whereas pre-pandemic, everyone went to one place. So you went to in person and you got all the great people. Now, not all the great people are showing up in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been doing it, like I said, remote for a long time. And we do our sales close within an hour. You know, the idea is listening intently and then diagnosing from there and giving them a firm quote, you know, by the time they leave. So they're, you know, so that they leave satisfied, whether they want to go with us or not, that's up to them. But they leave happy with the process, you know, and we found that if you do it in person, there's so much distraction going on. You know, someone might not show up. You might be late. You might be waiting on things. There might be things going on that you don't even know about behind the scenes and slowing things down. Whereas when you have somebody captive for an hour on a video chat where the cameras are on, you can see their facial expressions. You know, you've got them, you know, for that 1 hour and you're heavily listening. It just works so well. It's like, it's real magical when it comes to it. At least I think so.
So I'm going to tell you, Zoom to me. So like email is 1 dimension, phone is 2 dimension, in person is 3 dimension. So Zoom to me is 2.5.
Yeah,
right between.
Right, it's kind of in between. But I will tell you that if I put one of my clients who only believes being in person, he would tell you that people who are online are highly distracted. They're looking at their phone, they're looking at their email, they're not paying attention. And I was like, I don't find that when you're doing the sales process. Sounds like you guys don't find that either.
I think if they are distracted, then you're not going to close the sale anyways, right? Like if you're going into a sales call that you're really interested in buying, like you're going to be listening because you're going to want to know if this is a purchase you're going to make. So if they're distracted, they're going to be distracted in person as well. would be
yeah, exactly. Right. I totally agree with that, Jamie. Like I think they'd be distracted both places. So I
guess I do have a question on this hybrid. So like, okay. I mean, Jody said we do our sales in person or on video, but I guess would we be hybrid? Because I feel like we do a lot of thought leadership. So we were just in Greece a week ago, and we were out there just educating not potential clients, but educating people in the industry on what we do and what we know. And then eventually, some of those people might end up on a sales call. And so, like, yeah, we've met them in person. And I'm curious for you, Jody, like, I feel like we've closed more deals for people that we've met in person prior to closing it than the people that were just meeting online for the first time. So I would almost consider that a hybrid model. I mean, would you agree?
I would think so too, but that's not true.
Okay. It's not true.
Wait, it's not true that the metrics show that it's not true that you close most people that you met in person?
Yeah, so we close a third. It's been pretty much that way for the last 10 years, where a third of the people that we close, they've seen us speak at a conference, how to, metrics conference, how to be profitable type of thing. A third of them come from referrals from, maybe clients, maybe, prospects, maybe, somebody else. And then the third come through marketing, just through like video or, listening to a podcast or, white papers or books that we've written, that sort of thing. And so 2/3 of our clients have never seen or met us before. So Jamie, I would have thought the same thing you would have thought going into it, 100%. Mm-hmm. I would have bet a lot of money on that. And I would have been completely wrong, because 2/3 of our clients come from other means.
So I'm going to say 2 things to both of you, and congratulations to you. First of all, your metrics. And metrics are so important in new business development because people don't know their metrics, and then they're not as successful. So kudos to you about your metrics. The other thing I would say to you is the three, we call them marketing attraction vehicles. So you're using three interesting marketing attraction vehicles to bring people to you. We call it marketing gravity, as opposed to going out and finding people, which is not the way to do it nowadays.
Nope.
100% agree.
Not at all.
100% agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's interesting because people really are resistant around metrics, or they get their metrics wrong. And again, kudos to you guys. The total yay.
Well, the fun part is, you know, we are financial consultants, but, you know, I was in the CFO role for a long time, and now I'm more in the director role. So I don't deal as directly with clients and those client relationships, but I remember being in client calls and surprised with how much time I'm spending with marketing. And again, we work with agencies, we work with marketing companies, but I spend so much time with them understanding their marketing metrics and their sales metrics and being like, okay, what is your close time? What is your close ratio? What is your, you know, all those things, and really coming up with those numbers and then putting some math behind those numbers to help them understand that, okay, if you're closing 30% of your deals and it takes you 90 days to close them, here's what your pipeline needs to look like. And just kind of giving them those metrics. And it is surprising to me how few companies came in knowing answers to those very basic questions.
Well, you would think it's basic to you, but it's not basic to lots of companies. I mean, it's almost like it's rocket science to them, that they're like, what? and we try to make metrics really simple. And however, you need to look at them. And when those, it's interesting. We have a client that we've been working with for 5 years, who's been doing the Caveman Brain business growth system 5 years. It took us the first 3 years, they refused to do metrics. Refused.
Why?
Refused. Like, we were like, really? Okay.
A bad math experience in high school. Like, I can't deal with numbers.
I love that. Bad math experience. And I love that. And then by year 4, we convinced them to do metrics, and they've accelerated their growth just based because now they have metrics. The growth has been accelerated. And I find it so fascinating because the first year we exceeded their goals like by 10% and then by 20%. Now we're exceeding goals like by 40 or 50% because they have the metrics and they're looking at them every week. And they're like, okay, we have to change this, or we keep doing that. And so many people are anti-metrics. I think to myself, why not?
Yeah, that blows my mind because the power is in the numbers. I mean, the power is in understanding the numbers. And if you don't understand the numbers, I'm not sure how you would be successful, you know, with that. You know, for the longest time, you know, we were our closing ratio was close to like 80%. You think, oh, that's great. You know, you're doing a wonderful job. In reality, that's a bad thing because it means you're not pricing your product appropriately and you're selling it too cheap. And so, you know, that was one of the big metrics we had to learn from pretty quickly is, hey, how do we get our price to where the market says, hey, that's a fair price? And not go too far and say it's not a fair price, because you can raise it to 2,000% if you wanted to, and then you get very little people that have interest in buying, maybe 5 or 10%. And I found that magic number for us is that 30% threshold. If we're closing 30% of the time ish, then I think then our product's priced properly. We're closing a percentage, and if our retention rate stays in the 90%ish. I'm throwing all these stats out, right? The 96% or 94% is where we typically are at. That tells me we're bringing clients in at the right price. They love the service, and they're not going to leave, quickly because they made a bad decision. They had the buyer's remorse syndrome. And so those are the metrics that we use. And it's kind of funny as an accounting firm that's our key metrics.
I love them. I love it. And I have to tell you, I always think you should lop off the bottom 10% every year and replace it with better 10%. So you're all doing a great job on that. Right. And I think that the whole 80% raising prices is a good thing until the market can't bear it anymore. I think that's also important. And so many people don't. And the other thing that I find, client retention is super important in new business development. But what I find is, and I had a whole conversation with a client on this yesterday. Client's like, well, I don't understand why upselling doesn't count. Because I tell people, upselling, flows, whatever you want to call it, they don't count. That's gravy.
Yeah, we don't count them either.
Right? New business development is what counts. And they're like, I don't understand. We closed all this. And I said, yeah, we have a new client that just came in that's been upselling for, 10 years. And their growth is now going down. And that's what happens, right? You go on the slippery slope and you get scared and you can't focus on retention. You got to go out and buy new. And I realized this is the other thing, because someone was like, well, the statistic says that, it's easier to upsell someone who's an acquired client than to find a new client. Yeah, that's truth. But guess what? It also doesn't talk about the fact that if you want your business to grow, you need to find new people. So.
Well, upselling is a sign that you didn't sell properly when you first when you first engaged.
I love that. Oh, I'm using that one, Jody. I'm totally taking that. Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate that. I learned something today. Let me write that down. That was awesome. Yeah, it's truth, right? Because you should be able to. Or there is times where you get the next project, and I don't consider that an upsell. I just consider that next. Right. What's next? It's what. And then people sing me the Ariana Grande song after that when I say that. What's next? And then they go, oh, yeah. Like, okay, let's not go down that path.
I would only be singing in client calls, right?
Okay, that's a good place to be singing as opposed to new business development calls.
Yeah, much better, yeah.
They may not want to hire you after they hear your voice.
Definitely not. Fine. Maybe Jody. I've heard Jody do karaoke.
Yeah, it's not good.
Not bad.
Well, that's
not good.
And well, speaking of karaoke, is another thing that we teach people is what we call the red bouncing ball method. So if in karaoke, when the ball goes on the wall, on the words and you follow the words.
Yep.
We tell people that new business development is just like that. And we call it the red bouncing ball. I said, I meet you, you introduce me to somebody else, and that introduces me to somebody else, and I introduce you to somebody else. And all of a sudden I've got a client meeting. And you just sometimes have to follow the red bouncing ball until you get to a potential client. We don't call them prospects because we think that that's a yucky word for Caveman Brain. So potential client is
potential client.
Potential clients. That's what we call them because that's what you want them to be. You want them to be a client, and they're potentially going to be that. So potential clients, and that's how. And as long as you keep looking at the bouncing ball and keep moving the ball along like you do in karaoke, you're going to be successful. So.
What stops people from doing that? Because when I was prior to college, I actually sold knives for a living. So
the cutlery knives.
Yeah, Cutco cutlery. Yeah, did it for 3 years. And the biggest thing we found, it wasn't really selling. That was easy because the product sold itself, high quality, very very nice. But the problem was that we had people that couldn't make that phone call.
It was very heavy.
It was unreal. Make the phone call. Yeah. Because if you make the phone call, you're going to, the stats show you're going to have so many appointments and so forth. What prevents people from making that phone call or instead, dropping an email where they should have made a phone call, or, popped on a Zoom call or something like that. What the caveman brain part, what causes that? And then more importantly, how can somebody overcome that?
Okay. So Caveman Brain is the first part, right? So we've already identified the reason why you can't pick up the phone is Caveman Brain, because you've made up stories. Like, for example, I'm interrupting this person, or they're going to reject me, or I'm going to be a failure. So failure of success, failure of rejection, failure of failure, failure of making a mistake. A lot of times people won't pick up the phone to make the phone call or write an email because I don't know exactly what to say. So we actually do a lot of writing of messaging for our clients. Like we'll say, write this in the email or write this as the headline. So we find that because people really, they get all tied up and I don't know what to say. I have people who are like, okay, now how do I answer this? And they literally write down the words by words. And I ask, you don't have to write my words down. You use your words. Oh, no. Your words are better, Dr. Jean. Okay, let me write that. Okay, that's fine, right? But that's really, they don't know what to say. And they're scared to say it, and they're scared to interrupt people. And what's really interesting is the follow-up is the place where people lose the sale. It is, right? So, and there's statistics around that. Something like it takes nowadays 7 touches for you to actually get someone to be interested in talking to you. Most salespeople stop. I shouldn't say salespeople, but most people who have to do new business development are stop after 1 touch.
Oh, wow.
Only like 80% of people. And then of the people who are still in the game, they stop at 5. And yet it shows that you have to do 7 touches to get to the person to get them an appointment. Which is probably why Jamie's like, oh, the guys are doing that email to me 7 times. That's why they keep hitting me all the time, is they're waiting for their 7th time to
7th email. That's how I just respond 7 times.
Yeah, exactly. Oy. But
I think the other part of it too, and I'm curious with you on the Caveman Brain part of this is this is something I've noticed in my career is part of being able to pick up that phone or being able to have those conversations is, do you believe in what you're selling and that your client needs it, right? So like now that I'm at Summit, like I feel like what we do is so beneficial to companies that just getting in that conversation, like if they need it, they need it. But I think a lot of people do need financial consulting at that small business level. So I'm very passionate about what we do. Now, when I was in audit and I was responsible for sales, I'm like, yeah, they need it because of the SEC requires it, but they really don't want it and they don't really need it. So I was never a good salesperson when I was with Grant Thornton as an auditor because I just didn't really feel passionate about what we were providing. So I think that's a big part of it, at least for my career. Do you find that pretty common?
Oh, very common. I tell this story all the time. I was in advertising and I launched a lot of products, and I turned a job down because I was going to launch Reese's Peanut Butter Cups cereal for children. And I thought, I cannot hawk a candy oriented, sugar laden cereal to like, that's just not happening for me. Yeah. So if you don't believe in your product, like you have to believe in that this is the best thing since sliced bread. And what I tell people is like, you have a gold brick. And you're going to go out to people and say, I have a gold brick. Do you want my gold brick? And some people are going to say, I hate gold bricks. I want purple. Well, you're not my person. But there's people who need gold bricks, and you got to go find those people who need gold bricks. Yep. So go find them, and you have to believe that your gold brick is the best gold brick on the face of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works.
Jody, do you need a gold brick, Jody?
Yeah, no.
No, he sold knives. Come on, he came from a place where it's the best stuff that ever happened before, right?
So so you got the person through the sales, the prospect. You got them on the phone. You're talking to them. You got them on a video call, whatever the means are, and then they're like, "Yep, great, sounds good." And then the follow up happens after that. How frequently should that follow up happen? Actually.
Okay, so no, that follow up doesn't happen then, because what we teach people is something what we call DAT. Date and time.
Okay.
So if they're not willing to make a decision on the phone call, so sometimes you can't do it. Like you all talk about like doing it in one time, which kudos to you that you know your process so well, you can do it in one time, and that's fabulous. For many of our clients, it's 2 and no more than 3. I mean, if you're past 3, it's you're in big trouble if you're in 3. Although for Fortune 500 companies, sometimes it can take a long time. So it depends on who the client is. But for most part, if it's just a normal, company, it should take around 3 times.
Okay.
So what we say to people is that when you're in the call, so you and I were in the call together, we're the most important time right now is us together. So you're the star of your movie. I'm a supporting cast member. When you leave us, like when you leave this show and move on to the next place, I'm no longer going to be in your show. Right? The scene is over. You've moved on as the movie star to the next place. So I have to capture your attention while we're together, which means I need to ask you to put a date and time on my calendar now, because we're both very busy people. And I know how hard it was for us to get this meeting together. So would it be okay? We teach people a lot about asking questions. Would it be okay to put a date and time on the calendar now? Now, look, if you can't make it, we certainly can change it, but at least we have we have a time that we can follow up with each other. Would that be okay? And most people say, yes, that'd be fine. And now you put the date and time on the calendar, and you don't have to do any more follow-up because now you have a date.
Date and time, how far out would you put it? A week?
Well, that depends. It depends on when so we teach people something called our 6 killer questions. And part of the 6 killer questions is, when would you like to get started? Which is, most people think they're very resistant because they think it's like, are you ready to get started? It's like, no, it's a timing question. So they're going to say, right? When you want to get started, like, is it this week? Is it 2 months from now? Is it 6 months from now? So by asking that question, you're directing what we call a facilitator buyer. That's what we call it. You're facilitating the sale. You're considering the buyer to do something for you. So we don't like people to have lots of follow-up. We want them to do that. But then what happens is our clients don't do it because of Caveman Brain. Oh, it just didn't seem right. Okay, good. So then you're in the chase, and we have a whole system around being in the chase, which after a while they go, this sucks. And we're like, yes. And if you just asked for that in the meeting, you wouldn't be in the chase. They all go, oh, okay.
That makes sense.
Right? Oh, yeah. So now I'm in the chase, because I don't want to have to hound you and follow up and get you on the calendar. The idea is that if we're together, then let's close the business, or tell me no. And I'm okay with that. Either way is fine.
100%. Right? I always like to say, hey, what's the quickest way to get to know? And I don't want to chase you like you had mentioned for a month to get to that no. I'd rather find
Mm-mm.
out today
Tell,
or
tell me no now, right?
Yeah.
I'm good with you telling me no now. Because
100%. Okay.
we have a whole system about how to, we call them love notes and how you reach out to people so that if you end up being in the chase, which most people do, that you stop it and get the appointment on the calendar so that you can close the person. Because we're really there just to help them solve a problem, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Great.
so I try not to, really try not to do follow-up sex.
So I think this has
I
been a great appetizer on Caveman Brain. So a lot of our listeners, I'm guessing, are very curious about finding out more and really to get the details and all that we've been talking about. So for that, how would they go about finding you?
All they have to do is go to cavemanbrain.com.
Okay.
Super easy. And when they're there, they can download some of our tools that we actually use with our clients to help them. We really do believe in our mission of we want to leave you better than we found you. They can attend our virtual training so that they can learn things like we've talked about today. Or if they want, they can sign up for our Caveman Brain Business Growth System and we will get them on board and get them started. We see results in as little as 30 days or less. And most people say they get 3 times the investment that they make.
Wow. So would
That's
that be
great.
for somebody just wanting to get into business development? Is that somebody that's been doing it for a while? Does it make any difference?
It doesn't really make any difference. Our system is geared to people who are brandy new, as well as people who are seasoned professionals. The system has been developed so it's customized to you. So you feel comfortable in doing new business development, because if you're uncomfortable, the person across the table will be uncomfortable and they're going to smell it. We talk a lot about the subconscious. Member of business psychology. So the fact is that for seasoned professionals, there's probably some small tweaks that will make big changes. And for new people or kind of mid-experienced people, it gives them that foundation and the system that they need that they can follow religiously forever. We call it a repeatable system so that when you leave us, because you will, and we're all good with that. We want you to graduate and move on.
Sure.
The system is, you'll know exactly where you are in the system. You know exactly what happens when you fall off the rails, and you know what to do when you're being really super successful.
Great. That sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome because, like, for instance, with us, we sell such a high dollar amount of thin air, really, because our average client, we it's about $80,000 a year, and it's really in thin air. You're not getting a product; you're getting a service.
Right? Yeah.
And for some people that just maybe right out of college that would be super great at it, that's a very intimidating dollar amount. And again, I think that's where the caveman brain gets kind of in their way on like, oh my gosh, and especially after they've been rejected for 3 or 4 times. It's like, oh, no one can do this, or you're the only one that can do this, or that sort of thing. And
I had a
so
colleague who looked at rejections, and when people said no to him, he wrote them a thank you note and said thank you, because he knew that he needed 9 no's to get to a yes. So every no he celebrated by, like, he was like, "Thanks so much for telling me no. It was great. You got me closer to my goal." Because that's what he wrote. I thought that was hilarious, but it worked for him. So
Great. So we are at time here. So I'm going to give both you guys a final thought. I know a marketing or a sales conversation is always one of Jody's favorites. So I'm gonna let him go first. Then we'll throw it over to you, Dr. Gene.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, it's been very enlightening. A lot of what you've talked about, it kind of comes inherent to what we do here at Summit. So we're bringing clients into us, like you had mentioned. We're not going after clients. It's just the way that the marketing works. But more importantly, being on that conversation, having that confidence that you're talking about, and trying to get to that no pretty quickly as fast as you can, and not being upset when you do get to it, like you'd mentioned. A thank you note's kind of a funny way of doing it, but that's I look at it the same way. I'd rather being off my thought process completely without having to bring it back on every month with the potential that it could lead to something successful. It just kind of baiting me for the future, for that future no. And I think being in that program sounds like it'd be really exciting for, again, somebody especially coming right out that's new, or somebody that just needs a refresher, because maybe they've been doing it for a long time, and everybody can always learn. So it sounds like you've got something going there, and definitely looking forward to hearing from you in the future.
Thank you so much, Jody. I appreciate that. That was very kind. Thank you.
All right. Now your final thoughts here, Dr. Gene.
My final thoughts. So what I find is that your caveman brain is going to fool you in terms of new business development. And often you'll get stuck because you can't move out, because your caveman brain is keeping you there. You're frozen in place. So if you're frozen in place, then, the fact is that recognize it's your caveman brain and do one step. Take one step forward, whatever the easiest thing for you to do. Call a client and ask them, hey, I love you so much. I love to work with people that are like you. Who do you know who I should talk to? Just one step to move forward. That's all it is. And every single day, if you just do one step forward, we tell people 5 hours a week is all you need. So 1 hour a day, you can do it in 20-minute blocks, 5-minute blocks. Just take one step and Caveman Brain will help you get there. That's all it is.
Great.
Make it easy.
And I know Jody mentioned a couple of potential clients for you too. The one I think of is kind of the accidental salesperson, accidental business development person. A lot of the people we work with are, first they're technicians and they're really good at their job. So they start their own business. And then when they start their own business, they're the one who knows it best. So they're having to do the sales and they're successful at first. But then when it comes time to start growing your business, it's like, oh, wait, I need to become a true business development person now. And I think those are the people that a lot of our clients are that could definitely benefit from what you offer. So appreciate you coming on today. I appreciate both of you guys coming on today. I think this is a great episode and hopefully will benefit a lot of our listeners.
Yep. Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
Enjoy this podcast? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving business success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.